Let's get into part 2 about the Johnstown. I did it. I knew that I wasn't going to. I didn't want to do it, but I did do it. The Johnstown Flood.
Okay.
Okay. So just to recap, remember last time, Johnstown is a town in Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
Here, let me
Steel
make my
town.
notes bigger because my eyes are getting weak as I get older. They're weak. So Johnstown's a town in Pennsylvania in 1853. I'll get through this, I promise. In 1853, they complete the South Fork Dam. It's an earth dam that's made of soil. Remember, it's the giant M&M with the peanut center, with the peanut core. Remember that whole thing? You've already forgotten. I love it.
Yep. No. We'll do I'll pass the quiz.
Okay, good. It was meant to serve the local canal system, but by the end of the decade, the canal becomes obsolete because railways come to dominate America. The dam and the surrounding area sort of passes hands for about 25 years because no one really cares anymore, and it's like not a thing as much as it used to be, until Benjamin Ruff purchases the dam and its surrounding areas in order to create the South Fork Fishing and Hunting Club. He makes a bunch of changes to the dam. They're all terrible. They're all meant to like be cool and make it like a nice, hunting and fishing club, but none of it's in service of making the dam useful or fixing it or anything like that. It's just all bad idea after bad idea.
And it raises the water level, right? If I remember correctly. Like all the fish they pour into
the changes, they pour the fish into it. The changes that they make don't raise the water level. What they do is they lower they lower the edge of the dam. Remember, it was like the edge of the bathtub?
Right. Yeah.
They lower it so that it can be wider so that carriages can get through.
That's right.
And they plug, and then there's the guy who like stole the copper wires, basically, which was the tubes, the guy that they bought it from who wanted to make money. So he sold that for scrap, and they just filled that up. They're like, whatever, we don't need pipes to drain stuff. Just fill it with dirt and rocks. So they do all that. They do a bunch of terrible changes. They put in the fish. They put in the grill, like the netting, so that the spillway doesn't allow the fish to escape. That's just our quick recap. And then on May 30th, yes, exactly, like the shower drain, like the hair is all getting caught up in their hair and fish.
How you have
that's
to
what you don't want.
Explain this to me in pure metaphor.
No, that's how I process it myself. That's how I was like, as I'm reading, this is why it's good to talk to you, because I'm like, you and I have similar brains, or I'm like, I don't understand what I'm reading, so I have to simplify it.
I need someone to be like, here's a simple concept. This is how it is.
Yes.
Okay, go on.
That's the same way. I'm the same way. And then on May 30th, 1889, two storms converge over Pennsylvania, and they dump almost 10 inches of rain because they had a walk-off battle, one from the north, one from the south, and they just converge and make one giant storm. Okay, so that's roughly what we covered. If you guys haven't listened to the episode before this, I would suggest going to do that because I get into all of that and explain sort of all that context is important for what ends up happening on this episode. So the story begins on the morning of May 31st, and Elias Unger, who is the president of the South Fork Fishing and Hunting Club, wakes up. And it's the late 1800s, right? So he's probably like, and he's like wearing a nightcap, and he's like wearing the
and
robe.
whenever he breathes out, the nightcap, the tip of the nightcap goes up. Yeah,
it goes.
Yep. Someone has tuberculosis.
Someone's got TB. They're coughing in the background. He's wearing striped pajamas. And he's like, what's going on here? And he hears sounds outside, and he puts on his slippers.
Inexplicably British.
Yes, exactly. I mean, they're still immigrating back and forth, I guess, at this point. And he grabs his candlestick holder with like the single candle on it, and he goes to investigate.
Okay.
And he's like, what's going on here? And his accent's just going to change over and over. I don't know what it is. It's going to go off the wall. So he goes outside, and he sees that Lake Conemaugh is raising rapidly. So this is probably around like 7 a.m. And he's like, oh shit, this is not good. This is bad. So he throws on some wool pants and like a top hat, whatever they were wearing in the 1800s at that point. I don't know. He changes it. Maybe he's still wearing his nightcap. I can't prove it otherwise.
I'm picturing him just wearing pants and a top hat. So thank you for the visual.
That's true. That's all he's wearing.
Yeah. So gotta get ready.
He's like, look at my white chest hairs. They need to know.
Ooh.
And he runs out. Hey, don't knock white chest hairs. Some of us have started to get them already.
I don't know how to respond to that.
There's nothing. Just let it be.
Well, that makes two of us then.
Yeah, right. It's true. So he's like, oh man, this is bad. He throws on his wool pants and his top hat, wearing nothing else. That's all. And he runs out to sea, and the water levels of the dam are suddenly now within 2 feet of the top of the crest. Not good. This is not good for a gigantic dam like this. If someone were to take like an oversized dump in that dam, in that reservoir, that dam's just going to dump over and spill everywhere. You're screwed.
Mm-hmm. Dang, I had some plans.
Yeah. Gotta hold it, Hannah. Gotta hold it.
I can only do it when it's outside in an unstable infrastructure. That's how I, yeah.
If that's the only way you can relax, I'm not here to judge you. I'm not here to dump shame. So Unger realizes the danger. This is not like your typical, because like stuff's happened before over the years, right? Like there have been some like water increases. There's been some sort of like threats of something maybe going poorly, but this is clearly different. That storm has dumped so much water. It's dumped, right? You want to laugh at the word dump, I'm sure. It's dumped water. Don't forget, of course, all the debris that has now gathered at the end of the dam as well, because all these different sources of from the streams and stuff have dumped like broken trees and boulders and stuff on the other side. So he's like, oh shit, this is bad. So he goes and he grabs a bunch of dudes from around the club who work there to help unclog the spillway, because the spillway had become obstructed by all the debris. So it's hair, like you said.
Why is it hair? Yeah.
It's always hair. Right. It's hair from like the shower debris.
Just a ton of hair.
Too much hair. He's like, all of our wives have been showering. There's too much hair in the spillway. It's blocked. We need to unclog this. And the club's not really in season right now, so there's not that many people there. So he's just grabbing whoever he can that happens to be on the grounds. And Rockefeller's not there to help lend. He's off doing like businessy railroad stuff or whatever.
Exploiting.
And so he's like, I gotta exploit. I don't have time for this right now. So they gotta grab what they can. One of the people that they grab is this guy named John Park. Now, John Park is this 22-year-old kid that the club had hired to help with like some sewage drainage something or other project. And he at that point, he had only had 3 years of work experience and no degree. But this was consistent with the laws of the time, that he had studied civil engineering for 3 years at the University of Pennsylvania. So that qualified him to practice engineering. You can't fault them for that. That was just sort of what it was at the time.
You could do anything back then. You could walk in and be like, I'm a doctor.
Snake oil or whatever. But I'm not here to knock on John Park. So despite being a young blood, John Park had a lot of helpful observations. He kind of was able to assess what was going on in a way that was that lined up with contemporary understandings of damming and overtopping failures and all that. He noted that Lake Conemaugh was now roughly 7.4 feet deeper than usual. He also, remember, because there's way more water in it than usual. Yeah. He noted that he also observed that the overtopping depth of the lake water pouring over the dam was roughly 1 foot deep and was concentrated at the sag in the center of the dam, which is the weakest part. And lastly, Park noticed that the water was steadily forming rills and gullies in the downstream face of the structure. What that means, basically, remember, it's a triangle. And the water that's being held is on the right side of it, and on the left side of it that's what he's talking about. So it's sort of forming these little streams that are coming down. So what that means is that the water is consistently starting to pour over it.
Oh, okay.
We now refer to this formation as surface detachment. This is a shout out to all you engineers and people who understand dams much better than I do.
Or like
and it
me,
typically
who
represents.
I can't be in my body.
You're an engineer. I remember you had 3 years.
I was talking about mental.
But
yeah, I went to
detachment.
school for engineering.
Yeah, I remember 3 years, so you can practice it now. So surface detachment typically represents the first phase of overtopping failure on dams.
Okay.
So what that means is that the crucial thing that you have to do at this stage is to get water out of the lake to prevent it from spilling over the center, because the center of the dam is where it's structurally weakest. Much like middle-aged men who no longer have a core muscle. Now we all get bellies. That's how dams are. It's the core. The center is what's really going to screw you over. Yeah.
Are you just going to like explode one day or something? If
I might start spilling over. Yes. All my fluids in my body might start just coming over the middle of me because I didn't do enough sit-ups.
You'll get on it.
I'm trying. So most of the workers remained on top of the dam, plowing earth to raise the crest above the water. So again, the visual here is you're in the bathtub's overflowing, so you start grabbing stuff to put on the side of the bathtub so that the water doesn't pour over it. Some are plowing earth to raise the crest above the water, while others try to pile mud and rock on the face to save the eroding wall. So they're sliding on the other side of the triangle, right? The one that faces away from the water, and they're trying to patch it with whatever. And they're frantically doing this, and they're scrambling, and shit's getting real. And somebody in this group is like, hey, you know what we could do is we could raise the steel net on the spillway, you know, where all the hair had gathered from all the showering from before.
And by hair, he means wood and trees and leaves.
Yes, trees, boulders, all that kind of stuff.
Want to make sure everyone's clear.
Yes. I mean, there's probably hair there as well. You never know. People go swimming in that lake.
That's true.
And Unger was like, and lose the fish? Absolutely not. That's not appropriate. We're not going to do that. Gotta protect your investments.
Oh, yeah.
So the water keeps rising and the men keep scrambling, and it's not good. It's just, this is clearly a shit show. So eventually it sinks in, and Unger is like, this could end very poorly. So we need to prepare for the worst, and we need to warn all the towns and villages and stuff around the area. So he grabs Park, right? He grabs the young kid, and he says, you need to grab your fastest horse and you need to go warn people. So naturally, Park goes and he finds Shadowfax.
Yeah, I was just going to say.
And he's like, show us the meaning of haste. I know that Lord of the Rings is what you kept thinking of with the last one, so I tried to put as many references into here as I could.
Oh my gosh, thank you.
So he tells Shadowfax to show him the meaning of haste. And they go to the nearby town of South Fork to send warnings to Johnstown. And he rides there, and Park gets there. He's scrambling. He's been trying to like move dirt and like assess all this stuff all morning. He's tired. He's just like out of his mind. And he sees a bunch of people in town.
Poor guy.
At this point, he's trying to do the best he can. I feel for this kid. He's like, he was responsible. And you know, in the stuff that you read later, he's like, he clearly feels like he was responsible for it. And you go on to find that like none of this is his fault. He's just this kid who tries. So be nice to young people. Young people they're trying their hardest. This kid is very much like of that ilk. So he goes into South Fork and he sees a little crowd and he's like, dude, the dam is like overflowing. It's freaking out. We don't know what's going to happen. You guys need to telegraph, you need to telegraph Johnstown. You need to let everybody in the area know that something could go horribly wrong. And we need to either get to higher ground, do whatever you can. And he doesn't know where the telegraph office is, even though that's what Unger had sent him to do. So he just sort of grabs a couple of guys there and he's like, listen, you, please go to the telegraph office and tell them to, send a telegram down to Johnstown and warn them. And then he just sort of like turns around and goes back.
They did it, right?
The two people.
Right?
Not immediately, it seems like. Because remember, the theme of this is everybody in this area and everybody in this town and everybody in this sort of vicinity is kind of like, okay, we've seen floods before. We've experienced this kind of stuff before. Don't be, the sky's not falling. It was like a little bit of like a Chicken Little situation where everybody sort of blows it off. They still do it. They're just not like running with the urgency of what Park had sort of insisted on. It does eventually get there. But so what you'll learn throughout the story is that this game of telephone becomes more and more infuriating as it goes down the line. Park hops back on Shadowfax. He shows him the meaning of haste again. And he runs back to the dam. And by the time that he's gone to warn everybody and come back, Unger's changed his mind, thankfully. And he's like, okay, forget it. We gotta take out the fish screens. There's no way around this. He's relented. And so they're like, cool. And, all the dudes get to work. They get like a bunch of screws, whatever. I don't exactly know what they're doing at this time, but they're basically doing their best to take this filter out so that the water can pour out through the spillway. But now the screens are so jammed by the water and the debris that it's not even possible. They waited too long. It's too late.
They can't get him out.
They can't get him out. They can't get it out. But there's good news here. The fish are still in the lake.
Oh, thank goodness. I can breathe easy.
That's what I was worried about.
All I care about is those fish.
Park also noticed that the lake had officially begun overtopping the dam during his episode. Officially.
Sorry, I had to interrupt and yell at you.
No, I love it. Officially, I could have missed that dad joke, and I would have kicked myself forever about it.
Wow.
And so it's officially overtopping. And he looks around and he starts making a bunch of calculations, and he's like, nope. This is not happening. This is not happening. This is donezo. This is bad. It's going to happen. And so he concludes from his observations that the lake had reached its peak depth and is going to start falling.
Oh.
So at around 1:30 p.m., the writing's on the wall, and he's like, dude, this is done. It's going to happen. There's nothing we can do. So Unger orders all of his men to fall back to high ground on both sides of the dam, and they couldn't do anything but just sort of watch and wait. They just had to prepare for it. So during the day in Johnstown, meanwhile, at the bottom of the hill, the situation had worsened, and the water levels rose to as high as 10 feet in the streets. Remember? The flood had just already come because of the rain, not even from the dam yet. Wow. And people were trapped in their houses, and they're just sort of this is kind of not great. This is kind of the worst thing we've ever seen. They have their own problems. They're just dealing with what they can. And sort of no one's really paying attention to the warnings coming from the telegraph operator. Like I said, they had a few scares years before, and they just sort of were I think there was one that they said that had allegedly almost happened in 1891 or 2, and nothing came of it.
Right.
So they were just kind of it's okay.
It's like people in Florida. When I was, sorry, I'll make this make sense. Florida, I was in Orlando. The only time I've ever been to Florida, I got caught in a Hurricane Matthew. And
seriously?
Everyone, oh yeah. I was in the Harry Potter world, and then the winds were whipping my hair around, and I just
That's
I gotta
God
go to
telling
Hogwarts.
you that you're engaging in witchcraft and punishing you.
You're right. I caused Hurricane Matthew. But no, I was really quick. Sorry, it's a side story.
No, go ahead.
We go to Walmart because, of course, it's the place nearest, and everyone's in there buying guns. All the guns are sold out. All the candles are sold out.
You gotta shoot the hurricane? What are you gonna do?
First of all, Walmart had a full-on gun section, and they were all gone. And then people were just yep, I'm just gonna stay. I'm gonna stay. And it's no one. You hear about these people are the governor's please leave, and no one leaves because they're well,
no
it's just
leaving.
Last time. But then you get every once in a while you get a Hurricane Andrew, and it destroys everything. But yeah, that's just what this is reminding me of well, we've done this before. Let's worry about our own issues and ignore the telegraphs.
Ignore the telegraphs. And so finally at around 3 p.m., Lake Conemaugh finally breaches the dam and sends approximately 3.8 billion gallons of water racing down the valley. Yeah.
I can't comprehend.
I can't comprehend it either. It sends it down the valley towards South Fork, East Conemaugh, and eventually Johnstown.
How fast is it moving? Do you know?
I'll tell you. So, gosh. Okay. So the water rushed forth. This is where, so from here on out, this is just going to be worse and worse.
Okay.
So
I'm ready.
The water rushed forth at an estimated 424,000 cubic feet per second, which is similar to someone turning on Niagara Falls to spill into the valley for 36 minutes.
No. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. That's horrible.
It took a little bit over an hour for the entire lake to drain into the valley, which is an astounding average rate at about 8 inches per minute. So this is what I kept thinking of is when you fill up a tub and whatever, you take your bath and then you flip the thing to let the water go out. It feels like it takes forever. Yeah. Right? I'm always surprised by how slow water goes down when it's just going through this little pipe. 8 inches a minute. 8 inches a minute. And this is this, what did I say? Almost 4 billion gallons of water. So this thing is just a bat out of hell flying.
Imagine looking over and seeing that come at you.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you're not going to have to imagine. I'm going to explain what people experienced.
Oh, okay.
So it comes barreling down. And it's filled with all this debris.
Oh,
and
right.
It's not coming down like sort of smoothly. It's filled with all this different stuff. And the waves are sort of like cresting and breaking on itself. And it's sort of doing this like loop-de-loopy spinny thing. At times it gets up to 40 feet high.
I'm sorry. I'm not laughing because it's funny.
No, this is all going to be laughter from just extreme discomfort.
This is insane.
I get it. Yeah, it gets insane. So first it hits South Fork, which is where Park had gone, remember, with Shadowfax to warn them to send the telegraph. Thankfully, the people in South Fork more or less took the warning seriously. Not every single person, but a lot of them basically just like went to higher ground and got the hell out of there. A couple of people didn't make it, unfortunately, but the majority of the town was okay. And it just plows through it. And what does it do? It takes trees, houses, everything. This
whole
thing
houses.
Now is part of this. Yeah, whole houses. This thing is now, these are all part of this tsunami that's coming down. And so it just straight, it's almost like a train just blowing through it, right? And it keeps going. And until it reaches the Katamari Viaduct, which was a railroad bridge about 75 feet high. And this thing's a viaduct, so it's got like these arches, right? So it just plows into that.
Takes out the arches, right?
So no, for a second, the arches actually stop the water because it acts as like a blocker. Because think about it. So there's water, there's all this debris within the water, and then it all just gets sort of log jammed into the arches. And for a second, it's like, okay, phew, cool. Like this thing slowed down. But actually, no, that's not what happens. What it does is that it functions kind of like, almost like, when we had toy cars where you'd pull them back and then let them go.
Oh, no.
It's like, what it does is like it increases the velocity of everything.
Okay.
And at the center of this arch with all the debris, it turns into like this Katamari ball from hell. So it's now collecting like houses and trees and boulders, and it just becomes like this giant, insane ball of death. And eventually, it's probably about like 5 to 7 minutes that it's chilling there. It just explodes.
Oh no!
Yeah, it explodes.
I don't want to die this way.
Gone.
I don't want to die this way.
I absolutely don't want to die this way.
I don't want to be buried in water and debris. Putting it out there.
So it basically just adds more force to it because it had to hold back for a minute, and it just boom explodes.